Good evening. This is EDL 851 case study. This is module 12 and I am Donita Ernest. I'm going to play the principal in this role. I am getting ready to evaluate Mrs. Stevens for her annual review. Her contract is going to either be renewed or non-renewed based on this evaluation. And I actually hired Mrs. Stevens, and I had hired several good teachers, and it appears that Mrs. Stevens is intelligent, that she has excellent subject matter knowledge, but she does struggle significantly with uninvolved students. She tends to do just teacher-focused or teacher-led instruction. Her classroom is noisy, lots of movement, and kids up moving around instead of being engaged and focused in learning. I tend to not be direct with Mrs. Stevens. She can be kind of fussy, and I've left the room before without giving her feedback because I just don't know what to say. I tend to be a little wishy-washy. She scares me a little bit and intimidates me maybe, and so I put off the evaluation, and I've dreaded it, and then when it came down to the actual evaluation, I tried to pacify her and make nice. And so then she becomes irritated. She's put off by my niceties and my platitudes of, flattery, just trying to get through the evaluation. And she's immovable. She's irritable. She's defensive anytime I try to give her any information. And her students don't respect her. She ignores any of my attempts at small talk. And by the time we're done with this whole situation, she pretty much tosses the evaluation on my desk, and she's angry. She threatens to sue the school, and she blames me. She says that she did not get any feedback or supervision, and so we have a problem. The main characters, of course, me, the principal, Mrs. Stevens, the teacher, the superintendent is going to have to be involved, and the Board of Education, more than likely, if she does end up suing us, and then the teacher supervisor. So what we have here is there's really no physical harm that has come to anyone. Now, Mrs. Stevens will experience some consequences if she does indeed get non-renewed. She is not going to be renewed based on my initial evaluation, and she's not going to get tenured. She will have to leave the district, and she will not have a job. We need to look at the appropriate evaluation tools and see if they were used. I don't know that I knew everything I needed to know about the tools that I was using. And we do need to look at other people that were involved in this evaluation. Was there a team of evaluators? Were there other people besides myself evaluating? And then we need to look at those artifacts, those observational data, and even the anecdotal data. What all do we have, and what does it look like for Mrs. Stevens? There is no breach of contract, and I'm going to have to evaluate, was appropriate supervision given? Was that outlined in her contract? And I really need to talk to Mrs. Stevens and find out what year of teaching she's in. She may be a super young teacher, new to the trade, and just need a little extra supervision. Again, there's no breach of contract, but there's some missing details here. We don't know everything, and so we need to kind of dive into that. No appearance of discriminatory conduct. I have no reason to believe that I have any bias against Mrs. Stevens. No gender, no ethnicity issues, race, nothing like that coming in the way of this evaluation. And I don't know that Mrs. Stevens was notified in any way of her teaching, her poor teaching quality. So what we have here, while Mrs. Stevens clearly has some issues with teaching overall, what types of support and supervision were offered to her throughout the year to reconcile those issues becomes the main focus of this discussion. So we have several things in place here. We have in section 5, we have the people, the place, and the program. That would be myself, the principal, the teacher, Mrs. Stevens. Her students are the most important characters in this story because they're the ones that either going to suffer academically or be able to be successful if we continue with her and do some additional things. And then, of course, the mentor or supervisor if there was indeed one. The place, of course, takes place in the classroom. It does appear to be disruptive. And then, of course, in my office when we do the evaluation. I mentioned the mailbox because I do not like to put notes in mailboxes or send emails that say, hey, come see me. I want to visit with the person because those types of emails and notes just incite worry and fear in most people. So, and then we need to visit with the supervisor or mentor and talk about how often they met, when they met, and things of that nature. The program, what's going on, how long has the teacher been teaching, has appropriate supervision been received? Mrs. Stevens says that it wasn't helpful in any way. I want to know why it wasn't helpful, and I also want to know what was specifically given. And then, of course, how often and by who were the evaluations done over the year? Was it just myself? Was it a team? Was it her supervisor? Did she have peers do some observations? Things of that nature we need to look at. So now we're going to review. We're going to look at section 5, and what we have here is Mrs. Stevens' contract based on my evaluation is not going to be renewed. Some possible issues with this is she's going to sue the school possibly. Another thing is that she is going to maybe badmouth the school, and that's the joys of social media and things of that nature. So there are things that could happen that are going to negatively impact the school, negatively impact our students. But in the long run, it could be more detrimental to keep her in this position than taking her out, because the students are the ones that are going to be affected the most. The important people in this case, of course, the most important are the students, and then the parents, because parents are concerned about the success of their students. We have the school board that's going to get involved at some point if she is non-renewed and she tries to sue, our community at large, and then teachers. This is going to affect our teachers. They're watching and listening and seeing how things are handled. So we need to make sure we keep certain people in the loop, update the superintendent and the school board about Mrs. Stevens saying she's going to sue. Doesn't tell us whether this happened or not in this scenario, but I definitely, as the principal, I'm going to be reaching out to my superintendent. I'm going to keep everyone apprised at every step of what's going on and what's happening. So we need to review the prior observations that were made. I need to see how many were made, when they were made, where they were made. The outcomes of the observations, was actual actionable feedback given to where she could take steps to improve. And the more information, actually more information is needed to make the best decision. So based on the above, as far as when and where, documentation, etc., I've already got enough information to kind of make my decision, but we'll go ahead and go through this. But what do we need to do next time? Be more thorough in evaluations and supervisions. Be stronger. Don't be intimidated by the teachers, and do what I need to do. Give that actionable feedback so I don't have to worry about being in this situation again. So now I'm going to evaluate my options. I have 3. The first option is proceed with the non-renewal with no recommendation to non-renew. Option 2, I could meet with my immediate supervisor to see what steps they recommend and either proceed or halt this recommendation. Or option 3, I could come up with a workable solution to include teacher improvement plan with steps, specific steps to follow immediately. So there are going to be pros and cons here, of course, with everyone. So the pro of option 1 was the teacher's going to be gone. We're not going to have to worry about it anymore. However, with her being gone, she may sue, and that's going to be a problem. Another pro would be the new teacher next year would come in, and maybe she's going to be stellar, or he's going to be stellar, going to take off, and the kids are going to do fabulous. The con is teacher morale may go down with the letting go of a teacher, because then there might be some tension. But it could also go the other way, where teachers are, relieved that she's gone. And then the next part, option 2, meet with the immediate supervisor and see what they recommend. The pro is additional input and more experience that we bring in to help make this decision is going to make it better for us. But the con is well, there's really no cons necessarily with this, as the other input is advisable unless you haven't done your job in documenting and offering appropriate supervision. And then we have option 3. Ms. Stevens won't sue. And the con is Miss Stevens may improve. And this is where we come up with a workable solution, and we actually come up with specific steps to follow immediately. The con is students may have to suffer another year of a poor teacher if by chance we keep her and she does not improve. And then the other pro, of course, is we've done our due diligence. So my recommendation is that I'm going to do a reevaluation of the situation. I'm going to make sure all my documents are presented. I'm going to look at my notes that I've taken, see if she was indeed given adequate supervision. I'm going to look at if I was being a coach in this situation and cheering on my teacher, and actually look at the classroom dynamics and breakdown of Mrs. Stevens' class. Was she at an unfair disadvantage? And I'm going to give Mrs. Stevens a second chance. I'm going to provide her a mentor teacher. I'm going to give her both a novice and a veteran teacher. I'm going to help them with supervision. I'm going to do informal and informal evaluations consistently and at random times. And this way I'm going to avoid a lawsuit. I'm going to set some time frames. I'm going to set some limits. And this is going to allow the students to see that second chances are given. We're going to talk to the students too and see how things are going and what their input is. And hopefully the students will see a possible change. As far as the administration and the board, we're able to avoid a lawsuit, and likely this isn't going to happen in Kansas due to statute 5437. There is not, at this point where she's at in her contract, she would not be able to sue the school. And so that is something that probably would not happen in the state of Kansas. And it looks, I want to look at this evaluative tool. I want to see, is it the correct one? Do I know enough about it? What else do I need to know? And I need to look at hiring practices and see if I made a mistake in hiring Mrs. Stevens. So my goal is to give her the tools that she needs to be successful. I want to avoid a lawsuit, but not compromise student achievement. And I want to visit with the students to discuss appropriate classroom behaviors, because this is on them too. The implementation, the first things first, stop Mrs. Stevens before she walks out the door, if she will stay. And this prevents tears and questions, the spread of gossip and rumors and discord. I want to invite Mrs. Stevens to pour out her heart and listen to her and agree with what I can and not interject. But we will probably learn a lot about Mrs. Stevens through this time. And so I want to go through the evaluation piece by piece. What does she see? What does she experience? What does she expect? And what supervision does she think she needs? Does she feel that she has the capacity to teach what she's teaching? Does she think she's in the right place? What can we do to help? And since I want to try again with Mrs. Stevens, I want to figure out a plan. And this may happen at a later date, but we will have to observe teaching at different days and times and classes and discuss expectations and forms and tools, and let her know that we will need to visit with the superintendent. And talk about the next steps. What happens if the plan doesn't work? What happens if it does work? Ideally, if Mrs. Stevens isn't showing improvement by December, we will be looking at for her replacement. But we do need to do a lot of observations between August and December. She could refuse the guidance. She may not take the required steps to become the effective teacher. She might be unteachable, and she might continue to blame or not seek the help. And so we need to be painstakingly consistent and document everything and give that actionable feedback and offer her a contract on a limited basis. And so I want to say that this assignment has provided me with the opportunity to look at a situation that will happen in the future. I can see how this type of situation can cause issues not only for myself but for my district as well. As a building leader, it will be vital for me to know my evaluation tool inside and out in order to make the best decisions I can regarding teachers. I always have to put the students first, and I know that I have the ability to cause greater success or failure due to the teachers that I allow in the classrooms. Students' futures are in my hands and take evaluation and supervision lightly is a serious thing. Providing my staff with actionable feedback is important to their future success as educators as well. I would be negligent to allow them to stay in a state of mediocrity and to pass that same mediocrity on to students. This class has taught me so much, and I am going to continue to learn on this topic. Teachers are the boots on the ground forces that keep schools going, and I, as the principal, am the one permitting teachers to stay or go. This is a serious charge for me as a future building leader.